Okay, y'all, this podcast came about because I saw my girlfriend Erica on her Instagram doing what I thought was a podcast. And I immediately messaged her and I was like, "Hi, I love these videos, but also fuck you because why have you not been on my podcast yet?" So I immediately said, "Can you come and share your story on the podcast?" And I'm so excited for you to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited. Thank you for the invite.
Oh my God. Yes. Like it's so interesting. People who I have worked with so many people over the years, and sometimes just like Miss Erica, she's like, I'm a little bit intimidated by doing this. And I was just like, are you out of your mind? You're like the biggest inspiration ever. And I think it's so helpful for people to hear from other amazing women who have absolutely done incredible things in this world. And Erica's story is going to 100% put a fire under your ass. And I'm so grateful that you've taken a moment out of your busy schedule to share it with us because you are an inspiration and people need to hear your story.
Oh, I appreciate that, Christina. Thank you.
100% because it's honestly it's 100% the truth. So I would love for you to kind of introduce yourself and who you are today, and then we'll kind of go back a little bit because I'd like the whole entire journey. I'm sure I know bits and pieces of it, but I probably don't even know all of it. And at the end of this, you guys are literally, if you ever give yourself an excuse, listen to this podcast again because Erica is, yeah, you're an inspiration for sure. So
Well,
introduce
thank
yourself. What do you do
you.
today? And we'll go from there.
My name is Erica Fontes. I am a mom. I own a company called Travelers Corporate Housing. And what we do, we have temporary accommodations in the Arkansas area. So we kind of work with a lot of people that need like a fully furnished apartment for a short time. So yeah, and I live in Conway where Christina lives. So it's like we're kind of neighbors.
We're definitely neighbors. Your house is like kind of outside Nathan's office, and we've known each other
Yes.
for off and on for so many years. Erica followed me for a few years. We got connected, and
Yeah.
then I think like a long time ago, you came to one of my in-person events in Little Rock,
Yeah.
and then we worked together for a season, and then
Yeah.
you decided to kind of work on different areas of the business. And I'm just so grateful that we've gotten to know each other and become friends, and yeah, all
Oh,
of the
same.
things for
Same. I
sure.
think we kind of have like a little bit of the same circle, a mutual girlfriend. And yeah, I drive by Nathan's office all the time and when I see a Range Rover sitting out there, I'm like, is she out there? I'm gonna honk at her.
He takes my truck to the office every once in a
Oh,
while.
so it's not
Oh
you.
no, it's not mine. No, it's 100% not me. I very rarely go to the office, but every once in a while I
Okay.
make him drive my truck to the office so I can go get his truck washed.
Okay.
I'm really trying to get wife of the year this year. It's been 20 something years and I'm trying to get it by going to wash his car during the day.
I see the post of the food. You're like, did you love this breakfast? He's like, this is not breakfast food, or I don't even know what it was the other day. I'm laughing at you guys.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
funny.
Yeah, he's a mess. I'm a mess, but I'm very grateful that we're each other's messes.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, take us back for a minute. So
Yeah.
Erica, you are originally from where?
Oh my gosh, multiple places. So I was born in Fort Worth, Texas. We moved to a small town in Boonville, Arkansas. Do you know where that is?
No, but you guys, literally, this is perfect because people think Arkansas is like literally the biggest redneck state ever, and it totally is in a lot
Yeah.
of regards. But
Yeah.
also, I think Erica would probably agree. I feel like we are sitting in the biggest gold mine ever by living in Arkansas. Like I am raw Arkansas. Fucking love it here.
Oh my gosh, I spoke with a huge president of a company. It's a steel company the other day, and they have roots here in Arkansas. And he said, it is the biggest hidden gem. People have no idea what they're missing. And I'm like, heck yeah, I know.
Heck yeah,
That's why
we
I'm
are so
here.
lucky.
So, but yeah, I grew up, I went to a small town called Boonville, Arkansas when my mom got married to my stepdad. And then we moved to Russellville, Arkansas when I was like 12. And I went to school there until, I definitely didn't graduate, but I got pregnant with my son, and then we moved to Conway when I got married. So
Awesome. So
Yeah.
let's I want to paint the picture. And I know that this is kind of weird, but I really would like to paint the picture because, please stay tuned for the end of this podcast or the middle of this podcast because I want you to really hear what Erica kind of is talking about here. So she just foreshadowed that she did not graduate from college, but we haven't let you in on the big boom of this podcast yet. But so you got pregnant at how old?
I was 16 when I got pregnant. I had my first son at 17.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a shock to everyone. I mean, I was not a great kid in high school. I struggled a lot through, you know, drugs and alcohol. It wasn't like a highlight moment of my life. I was struggling really bad, and I thank God every day that I became pregnant because I think he saved my life. So,
So you had
yeah,
your first child at 17 or 16?
17. I was
Had your
17 when I had Kobe.
Okay, so
I
when you
dropped
had
out of high school, um, and I had my second son like a year after him. And then I got married soon after that, and I stayed at home with my children, which I was super fortunate enough to be a stay-at-home mom for a very long time. It's something that I pride myself in. It was hard for me to break away, but it's something that I needed in that moment, so.
so how long were you and now was this the father of your two children?
No. So the two boys, no, but he raised the boys.
Okay, so he raised the
Yeah.
two boys. So you had two
Mhm.
boys, you're a stay-at-home mom. You
Yeah.
had how many more children?
And then we had 3 children. So I had my daughter, and then we were planning on our last one, and then we had twins. So it was kind of like a woo, raha moment, or an aha moment, like, oh gosh. But we hit it out of the park with the twins. So
And how old were you when you had five children?
I think I was about 26 or 27 when I had the twins.
So you were 27 years old, you had five children,
Yes.
and exactly. I literally just want to paint this picture, folks, because I think that
Mhm.
oftentimes people say, like, I didn't come from anything, or I can't do it, or everything is stacked against me. And I feel
Yeah.
like listening to your stories thus far, you had two children in high school, then you got married to a different gentleman, had three more children. You're 27
Mhm.
years old. You've got five kids. And what happens then?
A really big transition in my life. I filed for divorce. I had never truly had a career. Um, I didn't know anything about making money. Like I was leading myself blindly, but I knew I had to provide for these kiddos. And we were used to live in a certain way that I was like, I can't just go get a 9 to 5 and pay our bills. I mean, I could have, but I've had higher expectations of myself. So I started my company back in 2018.
So
So
but before you started your company, so how did you know that you had higher expectations for yourself and you knew that it was a possibility? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that tell themselves that they can't based upon what they came from. Now, did you come from money? Like, I want to kind of touch on that too.
listen, my dad's side of the family, they're very well off. And now my mom's side of the family, there are some that are well off, there are some that are not. So no, we didn't come from money, but I've seen money. I've seen it all of my life. I've experienced it. We were not poor, but we were not rich. So I had a moment, and I was thinking about this morning. I had a moment back when I was married that I knew I was meant for something more. And I started praying. And then that's when I feel like my life started. I thought it was falling apart, but it was ultimately just falling apart to be put back together the right way. So it was rough, but it was, you know, it was time to start something new.
Did you always have your faith?
Yes. Yes. So I grew up in a small town. We went to a Baptist church, and we never missed a Sunday or a Wednesday night. So we were always in church.
Have you always had a relationship with God the way that you do today?
Yes. I think during my divorce, I got a lot closer to God because I was scared. I was so scared that I could not provide for these children the way that they needed me to. And I was like, I'm just going to lean on my faith and God will take me where he needs me to be. And he sure did. So,
Unbelievable. Okay, so
yeah.
you're leaving your marriage. What year was this?
2018 is when I started my company, and that's when I filed for divorce.
Okay, so did you like up until this point, when you were thinking about leaving your marriage, were you setting things in place? Were you thinking about what you were going to do? Like, what was that whole process like? Because I think sometimes it's really helpful for people to put themselves in the story. So it's not like we like, okay, I'm getting divorced today and tomorrow I'm going to start my company. But what was that like 6 months, year, 2 years leading
Yeah.
up to the time?
I think I held on for so long. Like I didn't think divorce was going to be an option for me. It was not an option. I was going to ride it out. My kids will have their father. This is what I'm going to stick to. I will not be a statistic. And I I fasted, I prayed, I did everything I could. I was showing up. The other person was not. So I had asked God, just show me what you want me to do. And not that I feel like God believes or he wants divorce. No, but he definitely doesn't want you to live in that type of environment. So I made that decision and I felt like, it was okay to make.
Yeah.
So
So you had been thinking about, you knew that the lifestyle that you wanted for your children, you knew the lifestyle that you knew was possible. So I think that that's one thing that's helpful to point out here is that she'd witnessed that a lifestyle in which she wanted was possible. Like you knew
but
what
I
you
will
wanted.
say I didn't think it was possible from a woman.
Mm.
I When I was younger, and not to, rag on my mom, she would tell me to marry someone rich and travel the world. So in my mind, I'm like, who can I find? Who's gonna, just that kind of set into me, like into my mind where I'm like, okay, well, that's what I need to do. And I truly thought a man had to provide for me. And I didn't know what that looked like, but also I didn't believe in myself in those moments, until I was forced to, until I was like, my kids will not go hungry. My kids will live a good life, So I feel like it was forced out of me. It wasn't something I believed
I
at the
think that
time.
yeah, I think that's so interesting to point out because I think there's two things here. So Erica was told, marry a wealthy man, that's how you're going to have a successful life. And it's interesting. I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast and I've talked to clients about it, is that I was told, don't ever rely on a man. And I think,
Mhm.
unfortunately, I think, like I always say, the truth is in the middle. Like neither side of the pendulum is right. Like I don't think the way that you're taught was right, and I don't think the way that I was taught was right either, because it
Right.
forced me to be like, I'll never fucking need a man. I can do this all
Super
by myself.
independent.
And you
Yeah.
were just like, I got to find someone in order to take care of me. And I think the truth is in the middle. So I think it's helpful for people to see that it could be both sides of the story, and both of them are just not true, right?
Right, right. No, I agree. I agree. But it also just paints a picture. I feel like you have to go through shit, like really like dog shit to be able to see what you're worth, or to pull yourself out of something bad or, you got to have those moments.
Absolutely, 100%. So you're just about to leave your marriage. You know that your marriage has come to an end. You know that you want better for your children. You know that you ultimately know deep down that God is going to help you through this. You're going to figure this out. So when you say, I'm just going to start a company, how did this come about? Like, what were you seeing? I know, like, I'd love to kind of hear that story.
So like 2 years before I even filed for divorce, my aunt had been on my case about just try to start something in they kind of knew that I was going through some issues. They knew that, I think they saw something in me that I did not see in myself, which was so helpful. And she told me, just try this in your area because she has a company very similar to mine. And I opened up an EIN number 2 years before I even used it. Like I'm talking about didn't touch it, didn't use it, nothing. The piece of paper sat there. My kids have drawn on it. It's like, I still have it to this day. They have their little drawings on it. I and then that's when I started it then, and then 2 years when I was going through my struggles, that's when I started my company. I was like, "You know what? Fuck it. I'll try it." I had nothing to lose. I had nothing. During the time my husband had moved out of our house, he stopped paying for every single one of our bills. So my brand new vehicle got repossessed. I couldn't pay for my rent, couldn't pay for my food, like any of my food. I had to borrow money from my parents. It was a very humbling experience to be like, wow, you're not providing for your kids right now. What are you going to do? So I feel like I was forced to grind and hustle.
So what was the beginning stages of the grind and hustle? So you have an EIN number, you have seen that your aunt has this successful housing business. What were one of the first few steps that you took? Like what were the like literally the granular things that you did in the beginning?
I mean, I think I went around to each of the properties just trying to get my name out there. I made business cards. I had to borrow my grandmother's vehicle. It was this old janky expedition. I was so embarrassed driving it, but I had to pretend that I had this company. And I put on my brave face and walked into each property asking for referrals. I'll give you a kickback like $100 or $50 if somebody calls needing a fully furnished apartment, please have them call me. And if they call me and sign a lease with me, I'll give you money. And that's how I hustled in, those people in the office and they became, really good friends. So those were the first steps that I took, getting yourself out there, being so uncomfortable in every single moment is what I experienced.
I love that you said that. So how did you have enough money to pay for the first couple of apartments that if someone did refer it to you, I'm assuming, can you remember the first day that it worked? I always love to like hear like what was the first like holy fuck, I actually just made $1.
I guess I can't. I remember my first apartment and I can't remember. I think I might have had tax money left over that I like saved up. That's terrible to say because I know people you know what I mean, but it is true. I probably had like savings that I paid like the apartment was like $900. And so the company, I remember the company, it was PC Housing and they're huge, or they were at the time. They leased from me and they were like, we're gonna stay for 30 days. And I had a rental company. I rented everything and I asked them, can you take payment after they pay me? And they said yes. So I was like, cool, cool. Like once they pay me, I'll be able to pay everyone. And it happened. It happened that way. But the same day they moved in is the same day they gave notice. I was like, damn it. That was like I made like $400, it was not even much. And then I had to pay for, the utilities and getting them turned on. Like I probably didn't cover much at that first unit, but it taught me, okay, this is what you have to do, the proper steps. And there were times where I didn't have enough money to pay for like a deposit. And I would ask my aunt, hey, can you front me $200? And once they pay me, I will give you like that back. And she was like, absolutely. Like, because she knows how it is when you start, it's so difficult. And I didn't want to get I couldn't even afford a loan or anything like that to start my company. So it was hustling by one apartment at a time. And then, that's how it started.
I think that that's helpful for people to see because one of the like kind of phrases or affirmations I go by that I truly believe to my core is true, that if you want something bad enough, there is always a way to yes.
Oh
And
yeah.
100%. And I feel like, sometimes I will want certain things. I remember I did a discovery call just a couple of weeks ago, and this woman, it was like, she was fighting for every single excuse. You know, she was like, well, I can't do this because I've got this beach house, or I can't do this because I've got that. And I sometimes think to myself, the people that I love the most are the people who are just like, I will figure out a way to yes, no matter fucking what. And that
Right.
is, and your why, like the why is what carried you through. You had 5 children that you were like, I fucking have to be uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
have to ask for this $200. I have to pretend like I know what the fuck I'm doing when I literally have zero fucking clue.
At zero. And I'm sure people in my industry that were working with me at the time probably knew that because the verbiage is so different than like I didn't know what I was doing. But it goes to show that you can learn anything. You can learn anything if you just put your mind to it.
So after you had gotten the first kind of property when you got that first apartment, what were
Yeah.
like a couple of the next steps? Because you guys keep listening here, because we're about to tell you, you know, like what Erica does today and like how many apartments she has and their revenue streams and all of the things. But like, how did you build upon that while also being a single mom of 5 children?
Yeah, yeah. I went to an apartment complex that not very pretty in Little Rock, and I still actually have one unit there that this company just refuses to move out, and they've had it for like 3 years, which is fine, but it is run down. Class BC. It's not
For
fancy.
those of you who don't know, those are not the nicest. A plus is the highest class of apartment.
And I went to the apartment complex. My aunt, who was in the industry, knew the property manager. So at the time, I did not have business credit. I probably couldn't even pass, the credit check. And he believed in me. He was like, I'll give you 2 units. And, we've got referrals, we'll fill them. And then you just give us kickbacks. And that's really how I got like maybe 4 or 5 apartments there. And I just interns kept coming in for Dillard's and people on job assignments, traveling nurses came in. And then after that, I started running ads like Google ads. I had somebody do my website and we just started pushing our product through Google. So, and that really helped.
And so you started mostly in Little Rock when you first started, right?
Yes. So that was one of our first big jobs was in Little Rock. I actually had during the time I had a really big construction company reach out to me and they got like maybe 10 units at one time in Little Rock, which was at the time, it's massive when you start with, trying to start with one and then you go to like 10 to 15. And then we started traveling with those companies outside of the states or, Arkansas.
So what did that actual journey look like? Because I think that that's really interesting for you to kind of like really kind of walk us through, because I think it's helpful for someone to see that you literally started with like 2 units. Someone
Yeah.
like basically did you a solid because you
Yeah.
were willing to fucking do everything humanly possible in order to get that first yes. And then someone believed in you enough to get those 2 units. And then you kept hustling where you got more and more units. Then you got the Dillards. So for those of you who don't know, Dillards is a department store here in Arkansas. It is all across the United States, but not everywhere. Everyone knows what it is. So you got a few Dillards units. And then you had this big construction company because again, you're taking a shit ton of action. You're putting yourself out there. You're
Yeah.
like, can you do this? You're like, absolutely. And then you go home and you're like, how the fuck am I going to do this?
Right. And I found a little niche in, what I was doing because I can talk to anybody, but I can make friends with like if I can walk on a job site and I'm like, "Hey, listen, if you're staying in a hotel for a year, why not?" And I just throw them the numbers out there. And I would do that with like I would see what jobs are, what's being built in Little Rock. And at the time there was like an Amazon. And I captured all that work, which was super amazing because those companies have stuck with me to this day and we travel with them. So, I mean, don't be afraid to get dirty I mean, I walked on the job site. I knocked on the door to the little trailers. I'm like trying to hand out my brochures, like, please just give me some type of work. I can house you guys if you're in a hotel. I've got some apartments. So yeah, just one by one, checking off the list.
And I think you guys, if you're not if you're just listening to this and you're not looking at us together on YouTube, Erica is cute, cute, cute. Actually, like really smoking hot, to be honest with you. And she will walk and she dresses to the nine. She looks freaking good as hell all the time. The girl is on point, one of the most attractive women ever. But you will walk up onto a job site. And also, too, I think that it's helpful. I've been told, certain stupid comments like, well, of course that would work for you.
Of course, yeah.
Of course, that would work for you. And also, I think it's both. I think it's, yes, Erica is super fucking smoking hot and she's got a great personality and she's smart enough to fucking use that to her advantage because she's
Right.
still willing to do the work. And no matter how, I learned this a long time ago in my golf industry. I remember one year, I always said that I had the trifecta when I was doing golf tournaments. I looked pretty good. I was a pretty good golfer and I was a pretty good communicator. When you put all three of those together, that's a pretty good combination.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
remember there was one year where they brought in this girl and she was smoke show. She was like literally, she was the full package, like full package, if you know what I'm talking about. All of that to
Yeah.
be said, they brought her in and yet she didn't, yeah, she was super good to look at. But at the end of the day, they didn't bring her back year after year after year after year because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you have to do the job right. The
Yep.
one thing, everyone has one thing that'll get them through the door. Maybe it's a family connection. Maybe it's because you look a certain way. Maybe it's because you're the smartest person in the room. Maybe it's because you have the best personality. That one thing, no matter what it is, that will
Mhm.
get you through the door, but you've got to fucking prove the results. You have to stay there. It's like the person that says like, oh, slept your way to the top or you look a certain
Yeah.
way or Hollywood industry or whatever it is. It's like it got you through the door. But at the end of the day, longevity and the fact that Erica is still in business, however many years later, she
Mhm.
obviously was fucking doing something right, even if you did look a certain way.
Well, and I think too, I'm fucking funny, and
You
people
really
love to
are.
talk to me. I'm like, I will talk about anything, and people are like, "You are just an open book." I'm like, "Yeah, we're human. I might look a certain way, and honestly, I'm probably more insecure than most, but I'm not afraid to go talk to someone." And it's like, if they care, who gives a fuck? Like, just go fucking do it. If not, whatever. If you don't want to work with me, that's fine. I said hi. So I just always had that in the back of my mind. I'm like, what is meant for you will be yours, no matter what. So
Amen. Yeah, nothing can stop God's plan for you for
exactly.
sure. No question about it. So you got those Amazon contracts, you got that big construction company, then you started going out of the state. So what did it look like when you had to all of a sudden what year was it? How many years into it when you're like, "Oh fuck, this is a real business." Like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah, it
Like I
was
girl bossed. What the fuck?
yeah,
I
it was
hate that
like
word, but
I know. It was during COVID, and I know a lot of companies didn't survive, but we were one of the ones that more like a wart. We stuck around, we were
fuck yeah.
grinding.
I think it's
But
great.
during 2020 and 2021 were some of my biggest years, and I would, sometimes I would fly by myself and I'd rent a car and go get all the housewares and linens and everything I needed for my apartments. And then my mother works for me as well, and she would fly with me. It worked. We found something that just kind of worked for us. And that's kind of what it looked like.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that, I always thought it was helpful for people to know when you're doing well because I think, in my personal opinion, I actually think it's helpful to know that other people are doing well. I know that for a lot of people, COVID was a hard time, but I've always very much talked about how wonderful COVID was for me personally and in my
Mhm.
business because I think that it's helpful for people to see. Like, even right now, people are talking about like, high interest rates, recession, all the things. And I'm like, no, no, no. We can
Yeah.
still be fucking kicking ass and taking names because I think
Yep.
it's helpful for people to know that you can still thrive when the quote unquote the world is telling you you should be scared. Fuck that noise.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, during COVID, I I probably made the most money at that time. I was like, wow, like everybody's struggling and we are not. So I was grateful for that for sure. And that was a rough time. I didn't take out any loans. I didn't survive by taking out any loans. And however, I wish I would have now, but
I know,
I
since
did
no one
not.
had to fucking pay them back. Can we go back and get that PPP, folks?
Rewind. Can I please get that? Because I was so terrified. I was like, I do not want the government to own my company like in that manner. I didn't know. I was too scared to do any of that, but it's fine.
So what are so for those of now who don't know, what does your company, you don't obviously have to give us exact numbers, but how many units do you guys run? What is your revenue
Yeah.
what are we doing? Because I think it's really helpful for people to see that, like, pregnant at 16, five
Mm,
children, divorced, started a company, and now running a multi-seven-figure business by
yeah.
herself. And I think that this, not by, obviously you have employees and all the things, but like,
Yeah.
you did this by yourself and you didn't need a man to do it for you. And I'm not a I didn't even put out a Women's Day post, and maybe I should have, maybe I shouldn't have, but for
I didn't
me, I'm
either.
just not a big raw woman person. I'm just like, the best fucking person do the best fucking job. But
Agreed.
that's just my opinion. But I also think it's helpful too for people to see that you can be a fucking rock star in business and be coming from everything that you've had to overcome.
Right. I mean, we have well over a couple hundred apartments, millions in revenue, and we're blessed. I will say there have been times where I have to tell myself that I did this, and then I'm like, it's hard because I have what is that term called? I doubt myself, or I'm like, did you really do something? Like, I mean, that's a couple million. Like, who anybody could do, 5, 6 million in revenue. You know what I mean? Like, people, I guess I'm just hard on myself because I'm like, that's all you've done? Like, what more can you do? And I'm just, I have to remind myself, you've done some shit,
That's the
you're
reason why you
a
had me in your
badass.
life, because I was just like, what
Exactly.
the fuck? Are you kidding me,
Mm,
Erica? Like, what the fuck? And I totally agree with you. I think that there has to be some balance between, like, being so unbelievably proud of yourself and
mm,
being able to, like, articulate and be proud and show your kids and show other men and women, just fuck women, like, what you have done, whether you're a
yeah,
man or a woman, it does not matter. What you have been able to do is truly incredible. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted you on the podcast, because I
I
think
appreciate
sometimes,
that.
of course. And, it's interesting. We do live in the same town. We have mutual friends. It's one of our mutual friends has said, if Erica only knew what an inspiration she was. And I
Mm,
completely agree with you. I don't have children. And to do what you have done in
yeah,
business while being an amazing mother and taking care of yourself and doing it by yourself, it is unbelievable. But I
yeah,
also know that you don't want it to, quote unquote, be enough, because there's always that new
yeah.
level, new devil. I think it's just the
Yeah.
balance of just being so fucking thankful, but also knowing that there's so much more.
Yeah, and this year's my 6th year in business, and I've had a lot of growing pains, and I'm learning a lot. It's not always going to be, and it's not always going to go up. You're going to kind of fall back and learn your lessons, and then you continue to thrive. But it's so important that you keep pushing, and just keep pushing, even when you don't feel like it. Just fucking do it.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think are the best lessons that you've learned after, growing this company as fast as you have?
Um, I've said it before. I always think that I thought I was gonna hit a home run and just it will just constantly be home run after home run after home run. But like if you win all the time, you're learning something, but you're not learning as much as you are when you're losing. So I've lost a lot, I've learned a lot, but I've won a lot too. So I think during those down times, I have to remember that it's not always going to be down. You're going to go back up, but these are like, what am I trying to learn from this moment? Or what is God trying to teach me in this moment? And that's what I have to lean on during the down times. So I, you know, just always manage, I told you my company grew so fast that we didn't have the foundational skills or uh, foundational tools to scale a company at the scale it was going.
That
So
was
it,
one of, yeah, that was
yeah,
one of the things that Erica and I really worked on when we were working together. And then thankfully, I connected you with someone else and you put in policies and procedures and like
yeah.
actually learned how to, because, I think that this is helpful
So
for,
important, and you don't understand how important it is until you've scaled past the point where you're like, fuck, what am I doing? And then you have to turn around and go, fuck, now I've got to put the foundation in this house that I've built because it's kind of fallen,
yeah.
not that it's falling, but it's not as solid, so those are the things that I guess I'm an entrepreneur and I just work quick, 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 and I'm ready for the next and the next. I'm not that foundational type person. So learning that has been the biggest lesson for me. Like, you got to have a solid foundation first, then you can grow and grow and grow. So,
Slow down to speed up. You got to slow down to
yes,
speed up for sure.
yes,
And for those, in the business mind that are listening, that is what makes your company sellable. Like
yeah,
when you create, because for a first couple of years, probably the company was very much Erica. And
yeah,
now it's very much based on this is our process, this is our procedure. And no matter who is sitting in the CEO seat,
yeah.
you fucking drop Larry in there, drop Kathy in there. It does not matter. The company still can produce the income. And, I know that that's not rocket science for someone who actually understands this, but that is a huge part of it. Even Nathan
Yeah.
and I were on our walk yesterday. We were talking about, there's a doctor in town who, when we went to this doctor, Nathan had a small procedure done. And when we went to this doctor, Nathan was, he's a developer and he's like, this place needs a fucking remodel. And did you see that they're still using papers from the 70s? Well, no, I swear to you. But the funny thing about it was immediately both of our minds go to business. And I think that poor doctor, when he retires within the next couple of years, his company's worth his practice is worth nothing because
Oh,
there's no policies, there's no procedures, he knows what he does, but it's all in his brain and on a fucking piece of paper.
yeah.
So if you guys can get your policies and get your procedures and get your everything documented, then you can go and
Documentation.
sell that to an up and coming doctor or, at least it's worth more.
Yeah. Well, my team still catches me to this day because I'm not a paper person. I'm not a documentation person. They're like, "Whoa, slow down. We got to put that in the system." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it just takes so much more time." And I'm like, "We got to go, go, go." And they slow me down because they know once I'm gone, I'm gone. And bringing Erica back, is a little difficult. So, uh,
I think that's helpful. Okay, so that is one of the things that you've lessened. What is one of the hardest lessons that you've learned through this business life journey?
I think because I am a mom full time, because the kids only have me, I have to be grateful that I am a full time mom and a full time entrepreneur business owner. And that I will fail, not fail, but I will drop some things on this side and I'll drop some things on this side. And that's just, it is what it is. I'm doing everything the best I can. Whether or not this is ideal for me, it's my life. It's in my cards. These are my cards. I have to be a mom and I have to run this company. And I have people that run my company for me, and and that do a great job, but also I feel like it could be in a much better place if I had the help, but that's okay. I think that's fine. I'm okay being both. So,
Yeah. I think that's really good. And obviously, I know you, so I know how hard you are. And I mean, whether it's you or any other mom, I feel like by not being a mom and being in my position, I feel like I have this great advantage in the fact that I'm like, y'all are so fucking hard on yourselves. It's crazy,
I
crazy
know.
town.
I know, I know. I had to miss a couple of ball games because we were in Arizona for a conference and it ate me alive. I'm like, is this worth it? And I'm like, well, we gotta eat. So but I'm hard on myself.
You are
Yeah.
so hard on yourself. And I think that that's also been, one of your biggest keys to success. But, it's kind of like the thing back of the hand type of situation. It's like usually what is your biggest strength is also your biggest weakness.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
And it's just learning to be kinder to yourself along the journey because you're doing a phenomenal job. And I bet you $100 when your kids are 30 years old, they'll be like, my mom was a fucking boss. They will not care that you weren't at 2 of their fucking games. Be kinder to
Oh, I
yourself.
know. They're never gonna like ball games might not mean shit in the next 5 years, but I love to watch my kids. I love to watch them grow. I don't like them to go far from me. It's just I don't know. They're a part of me and they see me every day and within meetings or they go with me to set up apartments. When I first started, the twins were so little. I would lug them up and down apartment stairs, and lay them on the couches while I set up a unit by myself at 11 o'clock at night. And, I look at them and I'm like, man, they've been with me through this whole journey, and they know how hard I work. So, and they love it. So,
That's so cool. So what would you tell any, man or woman, because obviously women in particular, but what would you tell someone who is in a position where they know they want more for themselves? They know what is possible. They do not want to settle for, that quote unquote typical life. And if that's what you want, no shade to you at all, 100%, each to their own. But if we're speaking to the person that knows that they want more, what would you say?
you got to figure out what that more is and if you're willing to sacrifice for that more. I think doing the work is a lot harder than saying you're going to do the work. So, are you willing to sacrifice a lot for it? And I was willing to sacrifice everything. So, yeah.
Do you know what's interesting that you just said that it's harder to say that you'll do or it's harder to do the work than saying you're doing the work? I think
Mhm.
that actually at some point in time that switches because at some point in time you get so fucking sick of saying you're going to do the work that it's much fucking easier to just do the work than
Right.
say you're going to do the work.
Yeah. I think I try not to say what I'm gonna do. I just fucking do it because here's another thing too. At when you put it out there, what if you don't fucking do it, and then you gotta make sure you're gonna fucking do it because most people are looking at you like, what you doing? So I try not to say what I'm gonna do. I just do it. So
Absolutely. And it's easier to actually do it and just fucking do it because at the end
yeah,
of the day, no matter how successful you are, whether you're bringing in 6 or 7 million dollars, at the end of the day, I mean, it's your life.
right.
And there's going to be people that talk whether you do it or whether you don't do it. There's going to be people that are cheering you on and there's people that are wanting you to fail. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's your life and you only get one life. And I think for
Oh,
you,
that's so true. Like
you
you only
do.
get one life.
You only get one. Like, I wish if I could grant everyone, I always say, like, I would grant the people the confidence to do the thing that they want to do, but I would also grant people the knowing that, like, you are going to die. Hopefully not fucking today.
Yeah.
Hopefully not tomorrow. But like, I just sometimes witness people like, you'll witness a person who is like just fucking miserable and
Yeah.
settling and blaming everyone and everything around them when I'm like, no, no, you can just decide. This is your
Yeah.
decision. This is your
Yeah.
fucking decision.
Yep.
Like, and you're the perfect example. I mean, literally, what were the statistics that a woman who drops out of college with 2 children but before the age of 18 was going to create a multi 7-figure business and have so much fucking success, take care of her 5 children, and do it by herself?
I mean, I think I listened to a podcast the other day, and I think it's like 0.1%.
Yep.
I don't know. Don't quote me on that,
It's
but
close. It's under
it's
1%, folks.
it's close. But I'm it took me a while to realize that I could do it though, you know. So and I needed to be uncomfortable because I was comfortable for so many years living that cush life that when I was uncomfortable, that's when I made shit happen. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And don't you think that you figured out that you could do it by just starting to do it?
Yeah. Yeah. Just fucking, it doesn't matter if you just check off your list like one by one. Like, what can I do today to push me closer to my goals? What's that one thing? You know, I'm sure if you do 100 times that, that would be, you'd get there quicker. But, you know, start with one. Yeah.
It's so true. I think Jesse Itzler said something the other day where he's just like, if you just do that one thing, I think he said if you do something 100 hours a year, so 100 hours, that's like one every, like, I
Yeah.
mean, 1 hour every 3 days,
Mhm.
approximately, right? One thing, 1 hour every 3 days, you're going to be in front of 80, I think he said 85% of everyone else
Yeah.
because no one else is doing that one thing over and over consistently every single fucking day, nonstop. I mean, it is just the secret. And yet, no one wants to fucking do the actual thing. But that's the fucking secret. Like, that's it.
People think it's so fucking complicated.
It's not.
It's not. Just like you're doing 75 hard right
Yeah.
now, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Same shit every fucking day.
Same shit every fucking day.
But you're getting some results. You know,
Yeah.
it's the same shit every fucking day. People think we wake up and we do something so fucking different. I'm like, no,
No.
I'm doing the same shit every day. That's
How
it.
Erica got to a 6 million, $7 million business or whatever it is. She did the fucking thing over and over and over and over until it started to fucking work. The how I got to where I am, I did it over and over and over and over.
And it
How
will work.
it works. It
It
is
works.
literally not fucking rocket science, but you have to know your why and you have to be willing to do the little things over and over and over and over and over and over and over because no one else is doing those things over and over again. And
No,
it
and
will work. It is the
yeah,
law of the fucking universe. You do it, it will work. It may not
it
work
will.
as fast as you want. It may not work in the way that you want, but it will fucking work.
It will work. Yep. I agree. I agree.
I'm so grateful that you said yes to this. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank
I'm
you.
so proud of you. I just think that you are such an inspiration because if anyone has an excuse, go fucking listen to this podcast again because it is 100% possible if you want it and if you're willing to do the uncomfortable things over and over and over and over again.
Over and over. Thank you, Christina.
Where can everyone find you? Obviously, I know you do apartments outside of the state of Arkansas, but really explain to people what this is because we've kind of like I feel like I
Yeah.
know and you know, but we didn't really explain it. It's like temporary housing. So if
Yeah.
you, yeah, explain that.
So let's say if hypothetically speaking, there's a tornado that comes in the state of Arkansas and your house needs a new roof and you have to be out of your house for a month or two at a time, your insurance company, reach out to them, ask them, you know, if you're approved for housing, and then, you know, they pay for your stay at our furnished apartments. Um, if you're on a job assignment, normally your company will, you know, set you up with a hotel. But if you're there for a long period of time, let's say 6 months to a year outside of the state of Arkansas, we go and set up apartments for some of our clients. And then in the state of Arkansas, we have apartments all over. We've got Northwest Arkansas, we have Fort Smith, we've got Central Arkansas, and you know, they're all fully furnished apartments. If you're buying and selling a home, your home sells quickly and you need somewhere to go and you don't want to go to a hotel, you can come to one of our apartments.
You
So,
guys, it's an unbelievable business model. And I never really kind of thought of it, but Nathan has used Erica's
yeah.
services. Erica has used Nathan's apartments. For those of you who don't know, my
Yes,
husband's in the
yes.
apartment world, but it's just an amazing, business model that not a ton of people think of until you're in a situation that you need a temporary housing. So travelers, corporate
Corporate housing.
housing.
Yes.
That's where
Yes.
you can find Erica. Where are you on social media and all of the things?
I am at Travelers Corporate Housing on Instagram, and then I think it's EK Ray, which is crazy __ is my personal account.
You don't need her personal one, but find you on LinkedIn and
But LinkedIn at Erica Fontes, and then at Travelers Corporate Housing. So
awesome. We'll put it all in the show notes. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm
thank
so proud of
you.
you.
Thank you.